You said upstairs you never had a lesson. I imagine by the time you got to Trinity, your game was pretty well locked in, but how did you develop a swing, and did you pattern yourself after somebody?
Well, Hogan was the talk of the golf world at that time, and I admired his golf swing, and actually I had a book written by Dick Metz, a golf book, instruction book, and I read that and tried to copy what he said and did, and then Joe Conrad and I would go caddy and try to caddy for the good players and mimic their swings, and we pretty much picked it up on our own because we couldn't really afford golf lessons in those days.
It's ironic in a way that you couldn't afford lessons and never had one, and then you spent a good portion of your life giving lessons.
Exactly, yeah. I learned my teaching skills, if I had any, from Ari Ball. I was Ari Ball's assistant for 2 years at Oak Park Country Club, and then I graduated from there to Lincolnshire Country Club in Crete, Illinois, down close to Olympia Fields, and stayed there for 8 years. And I was ready to leave. I knew about all the fine jobs here on the North Shore, and I wanted to move from the South Side to the North Side. And as luck would have it, Skokie Country Club opened up. Jock Hutchison Jr. had been here for 17 years, son of the famous Jock Sr., who won the British Amateur and I think the Western, and was one of the best in his era. I know that they received lots of resumes, and they actually called only 10 of us back for our first interview. And that went well, and then they called only 3 of us back for a second interview, and that's when I met one of the members, Joe Dempsey Jr. And Joe was the practical joker, I guess, of Skokie Country Club. And knowing that they didn't ask any of us to bring our wives, but I thought, you know, Mary Lou is a very pretty girl, and so she dressed in red, and she was visibly pregnant at the time, and I brought her along. And when I introduced her to Joe Dempsey Jr., he looked at her, he looked at me, he looked at her again and me, and then he said to Mary Lou, "What did you do, Mary Lou? Marry the first guy that asked you?" So that was my introduction to Skokie Country Club, and even after I got the job, I had an experience with his dad, Joe Dempsey Sr. Skokie being a very, very conservative club, the normal bet was a 50-cent Nassau. But Joe Dempsey Sr. and H.E. McDonald, chairman of Household Finance, Jack Chichester, who was chairman of the selection committee and on the board of the CDGA. Anyway, they played for big bucks. They played a $5 Nassau. And it was my first year, my first month on the job, and Joe Dempsey Sr. comes busting into the pro shop and he says, "Pro, I need a ruling." And I said, "What's that, Mr. Dempsey?" He says, "We're playing the 18th hole, which is now our 9th hole. The presses were on, and I hit a beautiful shot. It was going on to the center of the green, and in midair, it hit a bird, and both the bird and the ball fell into the water. What's the ruling?" And I said, "Mr. Dempsey," I said, "that's called the rub of the green." I said, "If your ball had been slicing out of bounds and hit the bird and bounced back in, that would have been a good break." He looked at me and he spun on his heel, and as he went out the door, he said, "You're not going to last very long here, young man."
Did you have to change the way you approach people in terms of the differences between Lincolnshire and Skokie, or were you just the same guy driving into the parking lot as you were down south?
No, for sure. Lincolnshire Country Club was just a step up, one step up from a daily fee golf course, and I didn't have to be nearly as proper or formal as it turned out to be at Skokie. The members here at Skokie expected the best, and I tried to furnish them with the best help that I could find.
How difficult was it for you to balance your job and your duties as the head club pro here with your playing, which obviously was very good and very extensive?
Well, you know, it's completely different now. Back when I was working for Airy Ball at Oak Park, he would give lessons in the morning and then play golf nearly every afternoon with the members. I thought that was the way to do it. And the members, I guess because I was a pretty good player and represented them well in the newspapers. That's back when Charlie Bartlett was the editor of the Golf and the Tribune. We got, the Illinois PGA got a lot of publicity back then.
Well, let's talk about your playing career. You played in the U.S. Open, U.S. Amateur multiple times, won the Illinois Open, a lot of big moments in there. Can you pick out any that really stand out?
Yeah, I think my two outstanding memories would be winning the Texas State Amateur Championship back in 1952, and then winning the Illinois Open in 1975. Along with that, qualifying 5 times for the U.S. Open, the first time being 1958 at Southern Hills in Tulsa when Tommy Bolt won. And then I played in 63 at the Country Club in Brookline, Mass. And then in the early 70s, I got to play Oakmont, Marion, and Wingfoot. So I guess I was good enough to be there, but I didn't make the cut in any of those 5. But it was great being there in the club, Skokie Country Club in the early 70s. Was happy that I was there and even paid my expenses.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know that that happens all that much anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, I know some guys who've qualified for some events and the club pros or the managers told them they couldn't go because...
On the national scene, in my later years, I would go to Port St. Lucie to play in the Winter Tournament Series. They always had a quarter-century tournament for members of the PGA, 25 years, and they also had the half-century championship for members that had been 50 years or more. And I won that 4 times, and the last time I won it was in 2015. I was 86 years old, and I shot 74-74, which was 24 shots under my age. And I guess the most I've ever shot, though, was 15 shots under my age. And I still enjoy playing. I don't play, of course, nearly as well, and my game is in the maybe mid-80s to the low 90s now.
But Bill, we're here today, and it's your 96th birthday.
It is. Today is my 96th birthday. And I'm looking forward to equaling my brother's tenure of 100 in 4 more years.
So in your game, what were your strengths and, you know, how were you able to play as well as you did? What was the best part of your game?
I suppose even though I couldn't hit the ball as far as the maybe average person. I did go out and play the winter tour a number of years and found out that I wasn't good enough to make a living. In fact, even Hogan and Snead and Nelson back in those days needed to supplement their income. Mm-hmm. The average tournament was a $10,000 tournament. Was first prize was $2,000. So I went out and found out that my position in golf was to be a club pro and play locally, which I did pretty successfully here in the Illinois section.
Short game, obviously, must have been
very
good.
Short game, yes. I was a pretty good putter, and I had a number of good amateurs from other clubs come here to listen to me talk about the short game, and I guess I was a pretty good competitor. Having had years and years of experience, I wasn't too. One year at the in 1985, when I retired, I was playing in the PGA Seniors Championship at the Bear Club. Arnold Palmer and I had the same total after 3 rounds, and I was paired with him the fourth round, and I wasn't too nervous. I was intrigued with how he interacted with the gallery, but that was quite an experience. Arnold had been here to Skokie Country Club a number of times, I think 6 different times, playing in corporate outings, and so I knew him, and he was very congenial and nice, and I enjoyed so much that day. Even though I didn't play well, he shot. It was a very, very windy day, and that's a hard golf course. He, I think, shot 76, and I shot 78, and that's one of my favorite memories.
It's a good one, because I actually got a chance to play with him one time, and it was just like that. He was great, so friendly and engaging.
The day I first met Ben Hogan was interesting too. Every year in Dallas, the Dallas Athletic Club, they would play the Texas Cup matches, the 10 best amateurs playing against the 10 best pros. And since I'd won the 52 amateur championship, I was captain of the amateur team, and Ben Hogan was captain of the pro team. And I thought I was going to have to play Hogan in the match. Well, as it turned out, and I still don't know why he didn't play, but he was the non-playing captain, and my opponent was the terrible Tommy Bolt. And so that was an interesting match. My parents had come up from San Antonio to watch the matches, and early in the match, I had made 2 birdies, and I was 2 up on Tommy Bolt playing the 7th hole, and he wasn't very happy. And on the 7th hole, a par 5, he was trying to reach the green in 2 by hitting his driver off the fairway, and he rolled the ball. He topped it. And he spewed out a few profanities that I'm sure my mother had never heard. And then he took his driver and he threw it up into this giant pecan tree, and he couldn't get it down. And so now we're on the 16th hole, a par 3, and I'm still 2 up on Tommy Bolt, and he's furious. And I never will forget, I hit a good 6-iron on this par 3 at about 15 feet from the hole, and he hit it just inside of me, and I got over that putt, and I said, if I can make this putt, I'm probably going to beat Tommy Bolt. And 5 or 6 years later, he was a good player. 5 or 6 years later, he won the U.S. Open at Southern Hills in Tulsa. So I got up over that putt, and darned if I didn't knock it in the hole. And so Tommy Bolt was not noted good putter. In fact, that was his weakness. He knocked his putt in on top of me, so I'm 2 up and 2 to play. And as we're walking to the 17th tee, the skies opened up and it started raining, and we waited in a shelter house for almost an hour. And I guess I got to thinking about it and maybe got nervous. I bogeyed the last 2 holes and we split the match. But again, we had all of North Texas State team on our side, and we beat the pros that year. And the second one, if you have time, was when I got to play with Byron Nelson. And this took place in 1952. I was still an amateur. And there was a fellow by the name of Lefty Stackhouse. Did you ever hear the name Lefty Stackhouse?
No.
He was even more volatile than Tommy Bolt. And he did some awfully crazy things, and he also loved his tequila. But he was a very good player, and Lefty Stackhouse asked me to be his partner in this tournament, which was a 72-hole scratch pro-am, best ball scratch pro-am, Odessa Country Club. It was at that time a big tournament, a $10,000 purse. And so we started out shooting best ball of 64-66, and we're tied with Byron Nelson and Bo Weiniger, a great amateur out of Oklahoma City, one of the best. And so we're paired with them, and the third round, we're on the 17th green, and we're not doing so well, but Lefty has controlled himself, and Nelson and Weiniger were running away with the tournament. And we're both on in regulation, par 4. I putt first, miss my birdie putt, leave it about 3 feet. Lefty does the same thing. I putt my 3-footer and miss, and in disgust, I just raked the ball away from the hole. I didn't hole it out. Lefty got over his 3-footer. It did a 360 and hung on the lip, and he lost it. He just was so mad, he didn't know what to do, and I kid you not, he went bam. He hit himself so hard in the jaw, and he has a wedding band on his finger, and it gashes his cheek. The blood is dripping down. We had a huge gallery. You could hear a pin drop. He was either stunned or whatever. He reached over one hand, fanned on the putt. Our best ball then was a 6, a double bogey 6. So now as we go over to the 18th hole of par 3, which is the hardest hole on the golf course, about 220, elevated tee, elevated green. And I never will forget the 1-iron shot that Nelson hit there. We're playing the balata ball, and it's a low riser, and it settles down right behind the sand trap, about 15 feet from the hole. I hit a 4-wood and got it on the hole, on the green, and then I step aside to let Lefty play. Where is Lefty? I'm looking for Lefty, and then I look over the top of the gallery, and there he is 100 yards away with his caddy, headed for the bar, headed for his tequila. Fortunately, I had the scorecard, Nelson and Weiniger's scorecard. I got it attested, and by the time I thought, well, I'll find Lefty at the bar there at the club, and he wasn't there. And I guess it was maybe an hour later, I went to the hotel where we were staying, and there he was. He was unconscious, laying halfway on the bed and halfway off. I pulled his pants off, tucked him in. He never knew I was there. And worst of all, he still had a cigarette burning between these 2 fingers, and it had burnt a blister on this middle finger the size of my thumbnail. And I put his cigarette out, and on the way to the golf course for the final round, he looks like death warmed over. He's got a big patch on, he's got bloodshot eyes, he's wondering what happened to his finger, and I told him, He says, I don't know if I can even hold the club. So we got on the range, and he fooled around with his grip, and finally he gripped the club this way with his middle finger sticking out. He played all 18 holes with that finger sticking out. I think we shot 71. We finished one shot out of the money, and that ended the day. But you know, I ran into Byron Nelson sometime after that. I can't remember exactly where, and he remembered me, and I looked at him, and I said, Mr. Nelson, I bet I've told that story more times than you have. And he says, no, you haven't. And he wrote a book, How I Played the Game, and in that book he wrote about the Lefty Stackhouse story. And I've regretted many times that I didn't tell him or write him and tell him the rest of the story that he didn't know about after he left the 18th hole.
Let me ask you a couple more things. One of which would be, which would you take more pleasure or more joy in, playing well in an event, or teaching somebody, maybe a young kid or someone who goes on to become a pretty good player?
Well, I have to be honest. I was always more interested in being a player. I did teach some good players like Paul Hinesley here at Skokie Country Club.
Mm-hmm. What do you do when you're not playing golf?
My hobby, since I don't play a lot of golf, is building model airplanes, and I have one for you. It's a lost art. Back when I was even before I was playing golf, I built model airplanes, the balsa tissue paper model airplanes, and everything nowadays is plastic. But this is a skill that is almost forgotten, and I've built so many of those models in the last 10 or 15 years that I can't keep them all, so I enjoy building them and I enjoy giving them away.
Your association here dates back 60 years.
Yes.
That's an amazing amount of time to be associated with one place. What does that mean to you?
It means a great deal. In fact, I have two sons. One lives in Texas and the other lives in Florida. And my son in Texas, my only two grandchildren are there. And I have every reason to want to be in Texas. My brother is in San Antonio, but Skokie has become my home. Northbrook is my residence. We've been there for 60 some odd years. It's because of Skokie Country Club that I'm still here.
What does it feel like to be 96 years old?
Fortunate. Yeah, I think mentally I'm much younger than that. Physically, I've got a very bad lower back with arthritis, and that has affected my golf game. But I still enjoy playing, and maybe play once or twice a week. But yeah, I've always felt like I was much younger than my age indicated. Yeah, I think golf has been a big part of it. Playing a lot of golf, being interested in being outdoors and all. And of course, a good marriage. My wife always likes to hear that. A good marriage.
And you're married how long now?
Married for 65 years.
And she still puts up with you?
Yes, she still does, and doesn't object to ever me being on the golf course.
The perfect wife.
Exactly.